going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Going The Distance podcast presented by ImmaculateSports.com. Twitter's at ImmacSports.
Instagram is also at ImmacSports.
TikTok, YouTube, ImmacSports. I've recently figured out how to send this whole thing to YouTube with everything else, so like as its own video. So, that on its own usually takes like an hour, so that's beautiful. But yeah, YouTube, ImmacSports.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and get right into today with the opener, I guess, with Skyler. Tell me about Brett Harris and his MLB debut, or the second game that he played.
Yeah, so of course it's the second game he's going to remember for the rest of his life. Brett Harris, the A's prospect, third baseman, hit 2 homers for his first 2 career hits against the Marlins. Just an awesome guy. We've had our eye on him because he's basically been raking in Double and AAA for the past 3.5 years. Good thing said by Bobby Crosby, former manager of Double A, and the A's obviously like his opinion. He's been there for a long time. But just a great situation for a guy who was more known for the glove and the athlete, and now maybe this is why we haven't seen him for so long. He was finally getting the power ready for the big leagues, and just an awesome first week for Brett Harris, or I should say first 2 hits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Saturday in general was a pretty good one for the A's as they won 20-4 over the Marlins with that big 10-run third inning, which was the inning that Brett Harris got his first big league home run, and then I think he had his second in the 5th. But since then, it's been a little rough in the past 3 games. The A's lost pretty badly on Sunday, lost in heartbreak fashion is a good way to put it for Monday's game, and then today's game was a little rough. But Saturday was definitely a fun one for sure for A's fans. One of the best things I saw this past week has to be the Timberwolves defense, though, yesterday. I'm not sure how much you got to see that game, but in total, the Timberwolves won 106-80 in game 2. They really took, control of that series against the Nuggets. And the defense, even without Rudy Gobert, was like ridiculous, man. They just swarmed the ball. There's not an easy guy to go get a bucket on that team right now. And that's usually what can kind of help put teams away, is where you kind of go after that weak link on defense the whole time, regardless of how good they are on offense. And you kind of get your points that way. But the Timberwolves defense, they just rotate so well. They play on-ball defense like it's a corner and a wide receiver, where the feet are moving all the time, the hands are moving all the time. They're not giving them anything. It's just ridiculous watching them play. And as a Warrior fan, I mean, you and me, we both know we've kind of seen some Warrior teams that play really damn good defense. They obviously play great offense too, but the defense is kind of the stuff that takes you from a great team to a championship level team. And the Timberwolves, they showed that championship level defense last night for sure, even without now the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert. So
incredible to take a guy like that out of the situation. And you mentioned the Warriors' great defenses. If Draymond's not there, it all falls apart. So just ridiculous coaching from Minnesota.
Yeah, we'll get more into that in the later half of our episode when we go over the NBA series and the stuff that we saw last series as well too. But before that, we got to get into our baseball stuff with our usual player, pitcher, rookie of the week. Skyler, who was your player of the week over the past 7 days?
We talked about a couple different guys yesterday, but I think this one does have to go to Shohei Ohtani. He homered again yesterday. That's 10 for 15 in the week. 4 homers, 8 ribbies, 22 total bases, and also 4 stolen bases in 4 games. Just nasty from Shohei.
Yeah, Shohei's been ridiculous, and regardless of him playing 4 games or 6 games, whatever it's been over the past week, it's been like MLB show on rookie type numbers when you're playing at Costco. 10 for 15, like you said, the 4 homers, 8 RBIs, the 4 stolen bases kind of cracks me up as well too, because he's running this year as well too, which is crazy to see. It's obviously a 667 average. We talk about the 1 dot being good for the OPS. He was 2 dot in it last week, so he was a different level good, and he's showing why he's the best player in the league. Again this season, as he now leads the league, I want to say in average, OPS, and all these other categories in the MLB. But player of the week, not the first time, definitely won't be the last time, Shohei Ohtani. On to pitcher of the week.
Yeah, speaking of that, another guy who's definitely won it for me before this year, I kind of go with this strategy when I'm not sure what to do when the numbers look similar. So I went with Zach Wheeler. Two really good starts. The first one was 5 innings, 1 run, and a win against the Angels. And also 7 innings, no earned runs. There was an unearned one the other night against San Francisco. Only 1 walk, 11 strikeouts. He's off to a ridiculous start this season, and so are the Phillies all around him.
Yeah, the Phillies have been good. We'll talk more about them in the power rankings. But my pitcher of the week, I'm going to go with Jared Jones. 7 innings, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 10 strikeouts. He was ridiculously good in his start last week. But I do want to give a shout out to John Means. His first start of the season, he only pitched in 4 games last year, pitched in 2 games in 2022. And he kind of had his John Means and legacy isn't really the right way to put it, but he kind of had his legacy on the line going into this season because he was a guy who came into 2021 through that crazy no-hitter, was really good in the first couple months of the season, and then we saw the crackdown on sticky stuff, and John Means had like a 5 ERA the rest of the season. So is John Means just a sticky stuff merchant, and then he gets hurt the back-to-back years, has Tommy John, and he gets back on the mound on Saturday or Sunday, I forget which day it was, and he goes 7+ shutout for the first time since that no-hitter against Seattle in 2021. 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs, no walks, 8 strikeouts for the lefty. If he's a guy that can be reliable for the Orioles and, now the second quarter of the season, I guess, if you want to call it, that's going to mean a lot for them because they have Bradish coming back. I know Grayson Rodriguez just went on the IL, but if you have a three-headed monster with him, Bradish, and Burns, you're going to win a lot of ball games, not to even mention that their offense has every single dude on their team being able to hit the ball out of the ballpark. So John Means, co-pitcher of the week, I'll say.
Okay.
Rookie of the week.
Yeah, you mentioned Jared Jones and another guy, Shoto Imanaga, just completely exceeding expectations here. But I'm going to go with a bat, a guy who it's time to give him his flowers, Kyle. That's Andy Pahis from the Dodgers. He has been great throughout the entire month that he's been up. But this week, he led all rookies in hits with 8, 2 homers, 4 RBIs. He's been getting it started for the Dodgers. You would think that'd be the top of the lineup, but these past couple of games, he's been solid.
Yeah, I still went with Jones as my rookie of the week. However, I do love the Pages mention because he's been great for the Dodgers so far. He just looks like his demeanor is something that I kind of noticed when he's been playing. He doesn't seem like a rookie. He seems like a guy who's like 3rd or 4th year in the league, already kind of got his payday, whatever it is. And he's cool, calm, and collected at the plate all the time. And he's really damn good too. So Pages is just another one of the many stars that LA might be having on their team over the next 30, 40 years, whoever. Moving on, though, to our top 15 power rankings, like we do every other week so far this season. So this is our 3rd rankings of the year. Together, I didn't have any honorable mentions. Did you have any team that you wanted to shout out, though?
I will mention the 2 teams that got knocked out of my top 15 will be the Mets and the Blue Jays.
Yeah, those are 2 teams that I did not have in my rankings either. So I guess they can be shouted out. I'm trying to think of any other team. I did the Diamondbacks and the Reds were on my rankings the past few weeks. They weren't there. And I want to say that is it. Moving into number 15, though, Skyler, who do you got?
All right, I got the Tigers here, bumping up a little bit from the honorable mention spot last week. A lot of bright spots. Flaherty leads the league in Ks per 9. Riley Green looks like he's turning into a household name pretty quickly here. But the lineup is horrendous. You mentioned it to me last night. Just the Baez, Meadows, Colt Keith all in a row. Horrific. Torkelson also can't hit the ball right now. So a little concerning, but exceeding expectations, I guess, still.
Yeah. My number 15 team, they were unranked last time, and I'm happy I get to rank them here. It's the Washington Nationals. They're currently tied for that last wild card spot in the NL at 17-17. They were unranked last time. Over the past 2 weeks, they got swept by the Dodgers, but after that, they took 4 out of 4 from Miami in Miami. I know Miami isn't been good, but that's kind of what you got to do against those teams. They went to Texas. They won 1 out of 3 there, but played competitive ball throughout that series, and then played Toronto over the weekend and took 2 out of 3 from them. Washington's a team that's, if they're on the rankings now, they're going to be up on this rankings list for the next 3 to 4 years with the stuff that they have in the minor league system with Dylan Cruz and James Wood. Those two guys alone, plus the talent that they have right now, and the kind of the guys that are, I would say, breaking out, but playing to the highest of their potential, especially with a guy like C.J. Abrams. Nats have been fun to watch. They've been underrated, and I'm happy I get to talk about them a little bit here. Number 14.
All right. I got the Red Sox staying put at the 14 spot. Still one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. I just don't really trust their lineup. I'm sure they're going to be buying at the deadline now that they're off to a great start, but they're probably going to end up around 81 wins still.
Yeah, it's tough with that division. I will say that. My number 14 team is tied with the Nationals for that last wild card spot, and they just made a move a couple days ago. It's the San Diego Padres. They were unranked for me. This is the first time I've had them on my rankings this entire season, sitting at 19 now. Over the past 2 weeks, they won 2 out of 4 in Colorado, got swept by the Red Hot Phillies, but took 2 out of 3 from Cincy and 2 out of 3 in Arizona over the weekend. And I love the Luis Arias ad. And there's been, I don't know, the baseball community is kind of split up in this Luis Arias move where Padres probably gave up too much and they doesn't really have the greatest long-term fit, I would say, for Luis Arias in San Diego. But for this lineup right now, it makes a ton of sense because what they have throughout their lineup is a whole bunch of guys that can hit the ball to the ballpark, but they're struggling to hit for average, and they have a perfect table setter in Luis Arias. Now he's going to get 2 hits a game for you, or at least get on base 2 times a game for you, and then you have Tatis, Machado, Cronenworth, all these guys that have the ability to hit homers, and it's been showing. And that I don't think they've lost 1 game since he's been there in the 4 games that he's played. So Luis Arias and the Padres being at number 14. Number 13.
13 is where I have the Padres moving up a couple spots. I did have them at the 15 spot for a couple weeks now. I've been waiting, and I guess it's official. They're trying to be contenders. Now we know. I think Arias is going to be a good pickup for them. They really needed another lefty bat. That was a massive need for them to start the year. They already have 6 players this season who've accumulated 1 more. Cease, Tatis, Kim, Merrill, and Cronenworth. Just keep building around that. They're so close. The fact that Cease has been this good, I think tells you they have a shot.
Yeah, it's just funny, thinking about it. They had Juan Soto last year, and they kind of just, don't have Juan Soto anymore, and that's would have been probably the best person you could add to this team right now. Regardless, my number 13 team, moving up 2 spots from our last rankings, is the Seattle Mariners. They've won 4 straight series in a row, probably been the most consistent team over the last 2 weeks, so to speak, because they took 2 out of 3 in Texas, 2 out of 3 versus Arizona, 2 out of 3 versus Atlanta, and then 2 out of 3 in Houston over the weekend. They did lose the opener to Minnesota last night, but that game just got started again here today. So obviously we don't know how that's going to go yet. Regardless, Seattle's been good. They're slowly creeping back up in the division from that slow start that we had with them earlier in the season. Their offense is starting to slowly tick back up, but their pitching staff is just off the charts. No matter who you're throwing out there, one of the 5 guys in that rotation, there is no wrong answer right now. And I think even with the wrong answer, say Emerson Hancock's probably the odd man out once you want to go to Brian Wu or something like that, you're going to be completely okay because Brian Wu's a stud as well too. So the Mariners are in good hands right now. They just need Julio to heat up, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him skyrocketing into the top 7 or 8 at the rankings at some point this year. So Seattle moves up 2. Number 12.
All right, my number 12 spot's going to be the Royals. They're dropping down 2 spots, but they've been okay down the stretch, still exceeding all the expectations that we had for them. The new pitching staff still holds up. Bobby Witt, already a superstar, like we talked about. Salvador Perez, still destroying baseballs. Not just a hot start for these guys. It's for real. Right there in the wild card race, only 2.5 back of Cleveland.
Yeah, the Red Sox are my number 12 team. They moved down 1 spot, but a pretty stagnant couple of weeks, I would say. One out of 3 in Cleveland, and they took 2 out of 3 versus Chicago. The White Sox, or not the White Sox, the Cubs, that is. 2 out of 3 from the Giants, and then they took 1 out of 3 from the Twins in Minnesota, who were on like a 13-game winning streak at that point. So I'm not really too upset about losing that series there or the series in Cleveland. Nick Pavetta's coming back tomorrow, so that's going to be big for them. He was really good in his first two starts of the season. The offense has been solid. The pitching's been really good, whether it's the bullpen or the starters. And that was kind of the weak link that we thought there would be at the beginning of the season, and that hasn't been shown right now. That's exactly why the Red Sox are not 16-19, but rather 19-16. So they've been playing good ball, only down one spot a couple weeks ago. Number 11.
Number 11, I got the Mariners up one spot from 2 weeks ago. They've won a bunch of series in a row, like you said here. They're the masters of 2 out of 3 so far of this bottom tier. I guess the starting pitching, even better than we thought it could be, honestly, even after the early struggles. But the lineup has been so bad. They're still 24th in OPS. They strike out the most in all of baseball. They really got to get that going.
Yep. My number 11 team is going to be the Chicago Cubs. They're on my list for the first time this season, and I was kind of waiting for them to fizzle out is why they weren't on my rankings the past two times. They had the record to be on it, whether it's a 15 spot or, all the way up to 11 like they are for me right now. But they hadn't fizzled out. I thought they would because I didn't believe in the rotation. And I believed in the bullpen. That's one thing that's been faltering for them right now. And their lineup was just like slightly decent guy, like pretty much throughout the entire lineup. And that's how it's been the whole year for them. But I guess it's working for them in a way where they don't have to rely on one guy for them to win games. They got a 1 through 9 lineup that can, make you pay. And I think when you have that consistent pressure on the pitcher, that makes it a bit tougher for them. Sitting at 21-15 right now over the past 2 weeks. So they swept Houston, 1 out of 3 in Boston, like I just mentioned with the Red Sox, and then 3 out of 4 in New York against the Mets, and then 2 out of 3 versus the Milwaukee Brewers over the weekend. Cubs are playing good ball right now. Not their best ball this season. They're probably better in the earlier part, but I think it's time I show them some respect and put them in the 11th spot.
Number 10 is where I have the Cubbies here, down 2 spots from last week, from 8. And they've been basically top 10 in every major important category the entire season, but they're not very good in extra inning games. We've seen much worse in 1-run games, especially compared to a team like Milwaukee.
Yeah. Speaking of Milwaukee, they are my number 10 team, down 4 spots from last week. Or not last week, 2 weeks ago, but a little bit of a rough patch for them. But over the past 2 weeks, it was 2 out of 4 in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh at that time was terrible. You want to take 3 out of 4 there. 1 out of 3 versus the Yankees at home. They got mollywopped in that series, even though they took 1 out of 3. They gave up 15 runs apiece in the last 2 games of that series. 2 out of 3 versus Tampa is a good series, and then 1 out of 3 against the Cubs in Chicago over this past weekend. I would say they're fizzling out. They're just not having the crazy hot start that they were having at the beginning part of the season. They're not getting, Bryce Terang to be the ball player that he was in the first 4 weeks of the season. They're starting to lose out a little bit on Jackson Chourio, kind of how I expected him to be, where he's going to have these highlight moments. But when you look at it in totality of the season, it's probably not going to be the greatest full product. But I guess that's kind of what happens when you bring up a lot of young guys super early. So the Brewers will get better. I just think they're going through a rough spell right now. Number 9.
Yeah, this is where I got Milwaukee, so I'm glad we're on the same page with a lot of these teams I wasn't really sure where to put, specifically from the Central. So, yeah, not the best stretch here for Milwaukee, but Peralta has been the guy we thought he could be, the ace. They just don't have a whole lot of help right now. Contreras, awesome, but you mentioned it, Terang and Jackson here, not great down the stretch, just like the entire team, right? It seems like their energy controls everything, but hopefully they get Yelich back pretty soon. You don't want to fall behind in the NL right now because a lot of teams are having rough starts. So this is your time to attack.
Of course, yeah, I agree. Number 9 team for me, I put the Kansas City Royals here. They're down 1 spot from last rankings, but still, marvelous start to the season for the Kansas City Royals, sitting at 21-15. The last 2 weeks, they took 3 out of 4 from Toronto. They did lose a series to Detroit in Detroit, and then they went to Toronto and took 2 out of 3 from them. And then the reigning champs went into Kansas City and took 2 out of 3 from the Royals this past weekend. but they're still one of those teams that have like a really good run differential. They have a really good bullpen. They're still getting some superstar play from Salvador Perez, which is kind of crazy. Bobby Witt's still been really good. Just kind of waiting for some of the other guys in that lineup to really kick it into gear. Pasquantino's been good, but Michael Garcia's had a slow start to the season. MJ Melendez has been kind of going through it. Hunter Renfroe hasn't been great either. They're just, I don't know. They need, if they want to make the playoffs, I think they really need, a third or fourth guy in that lineup to kind of turn it up. And one thing that I did see was that there was, I guess, reports that they were one of the teams trying to get Luis Arias. I don't know how close that was. I don't know if it was just a phone call that they made. But that would have been an interesting piece to put in that lineup right now. You had one of the best contact bats in the game, and I think that definitely would have helped in the run scoring department with Bobby Witt and Salvador Perez, how good they've been. But to see the world in buyers early in the season, I like it. I don't know if I agree with it because I don't really think they should be giving up a ton of their prospects right now. But if you want to win ball games, I'm not going to hold you against it. Number 8.
Number 8 is where I got the Minnesota Twins here. Not ranked, but I imagine if we did the full 30, would be at least like a plus 12 for both of us here. Just a massive win streak that just ended, 11 or 12, I believe. One of the hottest teams right now in baseball, and another team with a very important stretch coming up. They got series coming up against Seattle, Toronto, the Yankees, and Cleveland. So this is the make or break time for Minnesota.
Yeah. Moving up to number 8 for me, they're up one spot from our last rankings, but I think they've gotten significantly better. It's the Texas Rangers, the reigning World Series champs. Over the past 2 weeks, they did lose a series to Seattle, but since then, 2 out of 3 from Cincy, 2 out of 3 from our respectable Washington Nationals team, 2 out of 3 versus Kansas City, and then 2 out of 2 so far against the A's in that 4-game series. The offense woke up. That was the biggest thing that we were looking for them in the first month of the season, where they just weren't that, crazy threat offense that we saw from them last year that helped them win games in the regular season and eventually, get into the playoffs. Now they have the most runs in the AL. And the pitching, while it isn't great, it's enough. And that's kind of what we were talking about in our preseason rankings for these teams, because the Rangers, we knew the pitching staff wasn't going to be, the best in the league, but it just needed to be average and they were going to be okay. And that's exactly how it is for them right now. It's in that 21-16. Number 7.
Number 7, I got the Guardians. Once again, dropping down one spot. It's not really their fault. Cleveland hasn't done anything wrong. I just don't really see this being as sustainable as some of the other teams. They're asking a lot from their bullpen. So if the bats don't keep up this summer, they are going to lose a lot of games in a row.
Yeah. I have the Twins as my number 7 team, unranked. So kind of crazy to see that high up. Like you said, probably like a plus 12 or 13, whatever it is. They were the team that when I was doing these rankings today, I was like, damn, should I do 30 for these? Because then we really get to see how good they've been. I think that really helps you put it in perspective. But Twins have been the best team in baseball over the past 2 weeks. They swept the White Sox in a 4-game series, swept the Angels in a 3-game series, and then swept the White Sox again in a 3-game series before taking 2 out of 3 from Boston over the weekend. Everything's just going right. They're hitting with runners in scoring position. Johan Duran just came back. Carlos Correa came back. And they're playing as good as baseball as anybody in the league right now. So the Twins at 7. It's good to see them playing well. I want to say I had them as the AL Central champs and going into the season, and that's where they're getting close to right now, because Cleveland, we'll get into that in a bit.
Yeah.
Number 6.
Number 6 is where I got the Rangers, going up 3 spots from the 9 a couple weeks ago. 7-3 in their last 10. They retake the AL West. I wrote this before the game today. Their lineup could all click and be unstoppable at any moment, especially this series against the A's. That's pretty much what happened here. Marcus Semien, we saw him get back on track pretty quickly. I thought the ERA would be much worse with all the injuries, but they're another team that's really solid all around, top 10 in every offensive, defensive, pitching metric. So I like those red dots for sure.
Yeah, of course. Number 6 for me is going to be the New York Yankees. They're down 2 spots from our last rankings, but they've still been good. I think just some other teams have been really good over the past 2 weeks. I guess, average over the past few weeks. They took 2 out of 4 from the A's, 2 out of 3 in Milwaukee was a good get-right series. And then they lost 1 out of 4 in Baltimore, and that's kind of the kicker. That's what kind of put you down a couple spots. They did sweep Detroit over the weekend. But that Orioles series hurt, man. They were quick games. They just didn't get the offense going except for one of them, and it was a pretty ugly series for the Yankees in what could have been show the Baltimore Orioles that, hey, we're not the same team that we were last year. We're damn good. And then they were making, all these remarks about the wall being so far back in Baltimore, which is just the dumbest thing ever because you play in a stadium that has 314 to right and 319 to left. Regardless, the Yankees still been good. They got the best bullpen in the league. They still have 2 of the greatest sluggers in the league in Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, and they have had some of the other pieces make some big plays for them over the past few weeks as well, too. So I like the Yankees only moving down 2 spots to the number 6 spot.
Yeah, I got the Yankees at the 5 spot here, only dropping down 1 spot. Somehow, they're the 3rd ranked pitching staff on Fangraphs this season without Garrett Cole. Just ridiculous, right? Soto, Rizzo, Volpe, they've been holding down the fort while Judge struggles to hit for average, but they're going to be fine this year if they can win a series against Baltimore, I guess is the only knock, right?
Yeah. Speaking of Volpe, he did homer a couple minutes ago. Regardless, my number 5 team was my number 1 team last time that we talked, and it was the Atlanta Braves, who went through a bit of a rough patch over the past few weeks, especially the 6-game road trip they were just on. Started off the last 2 weeks well, taking 3 out of 3 versus Miami, so sweep there. Then 2 out of 3 versus a very good Cleveland team. Then they went out west on a 6-game road trip. Lost the first 2 in Seattle and then won the last one, and then got swept against the Dodgers in LA over the weekend. And that series was a mess. Just like that, Orioles-Yankees series, the offense never got going, never really felt like they had an opportunity to come back in those games. The Dodgers just had full control of those 3 games, regardless of what the score was. The Dodgers never felt like they were going to lose one of those games. Granted, Shohei Ohtani was, on another level over the past week, so I don't think you can, really knock the Braves too hard for losing a series in May to this Dodgers team. But it's very noteworthy, I'd still say. Down 4 spots, still the number 5 team, and I expect them to, gradually move up to number 3, number 2 spot over the next couple of weeks as well, too. Still 20-12, but not the best team in the division right now is another point to make. So they're my number 5 team. Number 4.
As the train comes rolling by, I have the Atlanta Braves also here for you, back to back. At the 4 spot, though, dropping down from 1 because they just haven't looked great down the stretch. I'm going to end up chalking this one up to a great team having a rough couple of weeks dealing with their injuries. It's still a top 5 lineup, and those Chad innings eaters are getting the job done. Like, how about 40-year-old Charlie Morton stepping up for him? That's been pretty big, and keeping them right there, not too far behind Philly.
Mm-hmm. Number 4 for me, moving down 1 spot from our last rankings. I wouldn't say they're coming back to life, but they're just not playing as good ball as they were in the beginning part of the season. That's the Cleveland Guardians. They did have a bit of a rough schedule. 2 out of 3 versus Boston. Lost the series to Atlanta. Lost the series in Houston. And then did take 2 out of 3 against the Angels over the weekend. And I believe they won yesterday against the Tigers as well, too. 23-12. Still, second best record in the AL, but it just feels a bit different over the past few weeks where it's not that, holy shit, the Cleveland Guardians are like unstoppable right now. Stephen Kwan's hurt, who was hitting like 370, so having him not in your lineup for, I think 4 weeks is the estimate for him. I want to say it was like I forget what he sprained, but it was a sprain or grade 1 sprain of something. And he's out for 4 weeks. They did bring Kyle Manzardo up, which is really good to see, but he's been pretty bad at his first couple of games, but not making too much of it, of course. Cleveland, I think, will be just fine, but with how good Minnesota's been, maybe you're not the best team in the division. Regardless, they still have a lead in the division, and it's a long ways to go. Number 4 team in the league for me. Number 3.
All right, my number 3 team is going to stay the same. That's the Baltimore Orioles. The O's just took 3 out of 4 from the Yankees. You can't get much better than that. They got the best run differential in the AL. Pitching staff stepping up over the last 2 weeks, and they've hit a ton of home runs.
Yeah, Orioles are my number 3 team, too. They've lost one series over the past 2 weeks. God, that team that they played in that series that they lost to must have been so good. Oh, it was the A's. They lost 2 out of 3 too. Besides that, though, 2 out of 3 in LA, 3 out of 4 versus the Yankees, like we've talked about, and then they swept the Cincinnati Reds over the weekend. The Orioles are as advertised, man. 180 runs scored, 125 runs against. It's the best, run differential margin in the American League right now. The Dodgers have a better one, but 23-11, they're going to win 100 plus games. Like we talked about earlier with John Means, pitching staff's getting better, getting healthy with Bradish and him. So, man, they're going to have no problem cruising through the regular season. And even if the Yankees being good, I really don't think they're going to contest them for the division. Regardless of if the Yankees win 100 games, they could still win it by 5.
Number two, we got the Fightin' Phils staying at 2. They have the most wins in baseball. Winners of 9 out of their last 10 now. Alec Boehm, a guy who'd been in trade talks this offseason, has been unstoppable for them. They're clicking on all cylinders. Basically, the Baltimore of the National League right now. Only can go up from here, right?
Maybe.
Okay, barring injury, right? Knock on wood. They get hurt a lot.
Yeah, when you said number 2, I was very curious if you were going to put the Phillies at 1 because they do have the best record in the league right now. But I did also put the Phillies as my number 2 team. They moved up 3 spots from last week or 2 weeks ago, and they've been rolling. Winners of 6 in a row. They just swept the Giants in a 4-game wraparound series. They won, or they're probably winning right now against the Blue Jays. They took 2 out of 3 from the Angels, swept the Padres in San Diego, and took 2 out of 4 from Cincinnati as well, too. They're hitting on all cylinders, regardless if it's Wheeler, Nola, Ranger Suarez, Christopher Sanchez, Spencer Turnbull, not Taijuan Walker, but regardless of, whoever you throw out there, if it's not Taijuan Walker, is going to put up a quality start for you. Plus, you have this lineup that's just ridiculously deep with how good Alec Baum and Brandon Marsh had been in the early part of the season. And now that Trey Turner and Bryce Harper are really starting to get it going too, this Phillies team is playing the best stretch of baseball that they've played in the April-May period ever since like Roy Halladay era. They haven't been this good in the early season like ever. That's just not how they play. They play good August, September, and then do good in October. But to see him playing well now, it's scary. And I was going to make a case for them to be scared, or the Braves to be scared with the division, but you know that the Braves are going to put it like what are just 30 out of 33 together in July or something like that to get back in it. But without Spencer Strider, you definitely got, your caution lights on or whatever it is. You're aware of the Phillies if you're the Braves for the first time in the regular season in a long time. But maybe that's what the Braves need. They were the division winners last 2 times around, and then they got beat out by the Phillies. Maybe they just need to be the underdog for once. Anyways, Phillies at number 2. They've been really damn good. Best team in the NL over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, that is going to be the Dodgers. I think we might have overreacted a little bit, Kyle. I had them in the 5 spot. I put them right back up to number 1. I'm a big believer in head-to-head, unless it's some crazy NFL game that maybe the weather makes things weird, or maybe it's you go up against Patrick Mahomes and things get weird. But anyways, the Dodgers just beat down on Atlanta this weekend. It's really hard for me to ignore that. Shohei's on another planet right now. They just got Walker Buehler back. Things are looking really good for the Dodgers.
Yeah, despite the Phillies being the best team in the NL over the past 2 weeks, I do have the Dodgers ahead of them. They were in the number 7 spot for me last time. Now they're back up into the 1 spot. Just like you said, we overreacted with them and the bad stretch of baseball that they were going through a couple weeks ago. Over the past 2 weeks, they swept Washington, took 2 out of 3 in Toronto, 2 out of 3 in Arizona, and then they swept Atlanta. We were talking about this road trip that they were going on being really tough, a 10-gamer or a 9-gamer actually, but they just came off that homestand where they lost to the Nationals. They nearly got swept by the Mets. And we're like, oh, shit. Dodgers going through a little bit of a rough patch is not something that we expected to see this early on in the season, and they just bounced back immediately. And like you said, the head-to-head is something that you make a big point out of, and I think getting that sweep against Atlanta is a really big tone setter because when you play in a good team in the regular season, like Atlanta and LA are, you expect for the home team to take 2 out of 3. That's kind of just the moot point there. I think if you're the road team, you're kind of okay with it, depending on how the series goes. And I think if Atlanta, took that last game against the Dodgers, or even took a middle game or the first game of the series, been okay, good series win, but nothing to make too big out of. But sweeping them like that in the early part of the season is like Dodgers are fucking back, man. And Shohei's been the best player of the league. It's not even close right now. He's 1.1 dot in it right now, hitting 370. And I was trying to put in perspective. It was explaining the Luis Arias trade today and just how good Shohei is. And it's like, you got the power of, Joey Gallo at his absolute best, and the contact abilities of Luis Arias put into one, and that's just what makes Shohei so special. It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, he can pitch. Yeah, I didn't even include that. And he can steal bases. Like, oh my God, this guy's he's not a generational talent. He's a once in a lifetime
unicorn.
Once in a sport, once in however it sounds like I'm glazing right now, but I'm not. This guy's like, he's ridiculous, man. Shohei's and there's nothing you can say to go against it, man.
Oh yeah.
Dodgers at number 1.
Again.
Moving on from that and into our NBA recap, just going over the series a little bit from all the series that concluded in the first round, and now 3 out of the 4 series have begun in the second round. First of which in the first round was the Thunder sweeping the Pelicans. Kind of what we expected there. I think we had that on the same page. Mavericks over Clippers in 6 games. I did pick the Mavs, I want to say. Let me just make sure that. Did I? I did.
Good.
Dallas, which is good. So we were right there. Timberwolves over Suns, we both had. I didn't think it was going to be in 4 games because I wasn't really familiar with the Timberwolves game like that, but they're really damn good. I've seen Denver over the Lakers. I expected 6 games, going 5, nothing too crazy there. Denver wins at home. Actually, no, they win game 5. No, game 5 was at home. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Boston winning in 5. I expected a 4-game series. 4 or 5, whatever, it doesn't matter. Cleveland wins in 7. That one hurt because I did have the Magic winning that series. But it doesn't matter because they play the Celtics anyway, so it's not going to change too much there. Indiana taking down the Bucks in 6 games. Is something Skyler obviously really loves, picking the Pacers to go to the conference finals. I had the Bucks to win the series. I didn't think Giannis would be out the whole series. I thought he missed maybe game 1 or game 2. But all 6 is kind of crazy there. And then the Knicks take down the Sixers in 6. I think that's exactly what I had, Knicks in 6. I remember saying that probably 50 times in the episode that we did our predictions. So pretty good round 1 for us. I think we both got.
We did pretty good.
Did you get any wrong?
I don't think so.
I got 1 wrong. Skyler got no wrong. But moving on to this second series, I guess we can kind of re-update our picks if we want to change anything for that. Series that hasn't kicked off yet, I guess will be the first one that we talk about with the Thunder taking on the Mavericks. What's your angle on this series, Skyler? What do you think?
Yeah, I got OKC winning this one in 6. I think Luka and Kyrie being this awesome on offense is a whole nother challenge for OKC, who just got to play a Zion-less Pelicans team. I don't think they're going to be concerned, but they're definitely going to drop a couple games here.
Yeah, I want to stick with my OKC in 6 prediction, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Mavericks take a game 1 or game 2 in OKC and kind of, kick the Thunder in the mouth and be like, oh shit, this isn't the fucking Pelicans that we can kind of just relax with. The Mavericks have some really damn good players in Luka and Kyrie, and they're going to be guys that hit shots on you late. They're not going to, score 89 points in a game or something like that. They're going to come to play. So I think you got to be, on your toes about the Mavericks. They can definitely upset the Thunder, but OKC in 6. So Timberwolves and Nuggets. I
Yeah.
originally had Denver in 5 in this series, and it's not going to go. It can't go that way anymore. Skyler, what do you think about this series, and how do you think it ends up?
I originally did have the Nuggets winning it all here, but after what happened last night, there's no way you can keep that pick, right? I'm going to switch this one to Minnesota in 7. To lose 2 in a
7.
row
Wow.
at home, to have Jamal Murray do what he did, and now he has a target on his back, even though he probably won't get suspended this year, they're going to be after him. It's the same crew of refs, right? And can do whatever he wants in the mid-range game. The Towns and Naz Reid stretch lineup works just as well with or without Gobert. Now we know that. It's ridiculous. I don't think Jokic is going to roll over. If they lose in less than 6 games, I'd be shocked. But obviously, Minnesota has a great advantage right now, winning both games on the road.
Yeah, this is a game one of the series was I thought was going to be not I wouldn't say a peak for the Timberwolves, but like a holy shit moment. We got a chance in this series, and then game 2, I expected the Nuggets to come out a lot better, especially if no Gobert and win by say 10 to 15 points, and they got KO'd, man. Like that was such a big a rude awakening to that Nuggets team that this isn't the same old Timberwolves. This is I don't know, but they were so damn good last night. And I'm definitely changing my prediction because that can't be possible anymore. Denver can't win in 5, and I wouldn't be shocked to just say the Timberwolves win in 5 in a gentleman's sweep. The Nuggets win game 4 when they're on their heels, and then the Nuggets just don't have anything left in the tank for game 5 because you got to go so hard to play those teams. And I don't think I see any scenario where the Nuggets can come back in this unless somebody gets hurt or something like that. So Timberwolves in 5.
Crazy.
Next up is Celtics versus Cavs. When we find the current score of that game, Boston's up 12 right now, 87 to 75 at the nearing the end of the third quarter. That is a 1 seed versus a 4 seed. Skyler, how do you think that plays out?
I got Boston in 5 in this one. I don't think it's too crazy to say Donovan Mitchell has another crazy ass game, maybe 50 points, and they steal one at home. But when Boston's 4th option, Derek White, is unstoppable in round 1, that's going to make things very difficult because that opens up shots for so many more better options. And that's kind of what's happening right now. Derek White is 25 in this game already.
Wow.
Just nuts, man. Nuts for Boston. I would be completely down for a Boston Minnesota finals. That'd be an awesome matchup.
My pick originally was that Orlando would be in the series. However, I still had Boston in 4. I want to say I'm leaning towards that same thing, although I kind of want to make the safe pick of Boston in 5 because sweeps are just so hard to do, especially when you got to go into Cleveland and get that last game. I think that's why the Timberwolves sweep is more likely now at this point too, because they just got to win 2 games at home. Regardless, Celtics in 4 or 5 is not going to change much. I'll just go ahead and say 5. Last series might be the most interesting series. The Pacers and Knicks. The famous saying is the series doesn't start until somebody loses at home. I wouldn't be shocked if this goes the whole way without somebody losing at home.
Yeah, I'm not going to change my pick, Kyle. I still got Indiana in 7 over the Knicks. I'm not that worried that they lost game 1. That just happened in Milwaukee, and they were fine after that. The Knicks' style of winning right now, I just don't think is sustainable. Everyone plays 40 minutes. They're undersized. And if Indiana can find a way to hold Brunson under 40, it's not going to be that hard to force that game 7. And we all know anything can happen in that game. So I'm trusting the Indiana defense, their coaching staff. They completely shut down Dame the game after he had the 35-point first half. So even though they were all battling injuries, I'm going to say Indiana keeps this going. And then they get smashed by Boston after that.
This is so tough. If I can really see the Knicks winning game 2, and then the Pacers clapping right back, and it being 2-2 going into game 5, and then same formula goes to game 7. Game 7, man, like you said, anything can happen. Man, it's just so tough.
Yep.
I'm gonna say the Knicks. I think the thing that's making it me tough for choose the Knicks, making it tough to choose the Knicks. Oh my god, I couldn't say a sentence there. Is that they don't have Julius Randle, and that's kind of like the perfect. Okay, yep, we got Julius Randle. They're going to win this series.
Who's going to guard Siakam?
That's what I'm saying. It's tough, but it's. Oh man, I'm pushing out. I'm saying Knicks in 7. There's not a single road game won in this entire series. It's all home teams, and it all kind of plays out the exact same way. Close game, and the home team wins at the end. So we'll go from there. I think we'll leave it as that, and then that way we don't do like this whole bracket again and go from there. Yeah. Unless you want to change. Do you want to change the championship pick?
Not really yet. I want to see Denver play one more time. I'm not sure if they're done yet, even though they got probably the biggest possible hill to climb now.
Yeah, I had Boston in my finals, and I had them winning in 6 against Denver. I don't want to be like such a recency bias, dude, because that's always ends up biting you in the ass. But I'm gonna do it, man. I'm saying the Timberwolves win it all because it's just like that team is they're so complete right now, and a lot can change in a month. The NBA Finals literally doesn't start until June 6th, so we're gonna see a whole month of basketball, or a whole ton of things can change. But as of right now, the Timberwolves are the best team in the playoffs. So Timberwolves take down the Celtics, and I'm not giving a game amount. I can't do that yet. All right, Skyler, we'll move on to the second half. Well, it looks like you're going over some MLB draft stuff.
Yeah, the draft is not as big of a deal for baseball, but for us, just as important. The A's are picking 4th. A lot of awesome options. So I decided today I'm just going to go through a couple of them, and we'll talk about it. Of course, you jump in if you hear something you don't like, you really like, have any more to add. So let's just get into it. I kind of have a 1A and 1B at the top right now. I haven't watched enough games to really determine. So we'll start off with Travis Bazana, second baseman of Oregon State. The left-hander just rips the ball ridiculously hard every time he's up. The power's starting to come now. I feel like the only comparisons right now in the league based on barrels and the position is a Ryan McMahon or a Nolan Gorman. Obviously, things could change. He's played center field for the Beavers this year, so who knows what happens in a couple of years from now. But he's a guy I'd absolutely been down for.
Yeah. Bazana, in my opinion, is the best player in the class. I'll say more why once we get to Caglione, who I assume we'll say here in a few seconds. But his bat is just so pro-like style in the way where it's high exit velocity, hard contact all the damn time. And he's got the ability to not strike out a ton. He's got the ability to walk. He's just got all the boxes checked when you look for a hitter. And I think that's kind of Corey Seager-like in a way where it's like you can do it all with the bat. And Bazana, I think that's why he's the best player in the class, in my opinion.
Yeah. Also an Aussie.
I didn't say the why there, I guess. I just said his pro part. I'll say why the other guy isn't once we get to that.
All right. Well, I'll jump to number 3 then, because my number 3 is Jack Caglione.
Okay.
The two-way player from Florida. I think at the very low end, you have a Jock Peterson type first baseman with obviously two-way potential here. Only Shohei Ohtani has done it in this era, so that's the only other guy, right? I think he's way more of a raw prospect. I'd like to see him in Colorado, to be honest with you, because that just kind of matches the style I think they're going for. What do you have?
Yeah, that puts in at 3. I think that'd make a lot of sense for Colorado too, because that could give them, a sense of identity, I guess if you want to title it that. I did air quotes there, but Caglione, I don't think he projects as a pitcher long term. I know he throws hard, but just because you throw hard doesn't mean really anything, unless you're throwing ridiculously hard, like a Mason Miller 103, 104, and he just doesn't have that in the tank. And I think you take off the pitching part of it, while it is kind of cool if it all works out, the bat is not nearly the same as Bazana or even Charlie Condon. it's a completely different thing. I know he's got the ability to hit the ball super far and hit it super hard, but the consistency level of that is just not the same level of these other dudes. So like he, I guess, has the highest ceiling. If everything works out perfectly, he could be Shohei Ohtani or something like that. But I just don't see that. And I think now, if you have the number one pick, you don't want to take a risk like that, especially with the Guardians, like how their franchise is set up. They don't need to do a home run pick like that. They'll be just fine with Pisani. Get another power bat in your lineup that can, be the guy that you need in that order. So I know he's going to be really good, hopefully, but I just don't think he's better than Travis.
Yeah, and for a lot of those same reasons, I have Charlie Condon number 2. I think his 2080 scale is going to look very similar to what we had from Wyatt Langford last year. This is a guy who might not need a lot of time in the minor leagues. It doesn't matter if he's playing left field, right field, first, third base. I think at the end of the day, the comparison is going to be Austin Riley. If you hit 30 homers, you have a spot in the lineup and you won't go to the minors for very long.
Yeah, I like Condon. His power is off the charts. I was trying to think of they didn't give Langford 80 grade power, right?
Maybe 75? I know Torkelson had 80, but we know what happened after that.
Yeah. I was trying to think of the guys that had it. Did Alonso have 80 grade power?
It's possible.
Close to it. Yeah. But that's kind of like what I see in Condon, except for more contact than what Alonso has. I think in the early part of his career, he could be a guy that, super home run reliant, but then once you get older, you progress as a hitter, especially how big he is. It's kind of tough to do that. He's got like Aaron Judge type offensive production level to him. I don't know his like walk rate, but I mean, if you're like a scary guy like he is at the plate, you're going to get walked at some point. I do think he'll strike out a bit, but the ceiling is an Aaron Judge level power. Defense, I don't give a fuck. He's hitting nukes, man. Who cares? Yeah.
All right. Next up on the list here, a couple of pitchers who have been pretty similar despite being different handedness here. So at number 4, we got Chase Burns, the righty from Wake Forest. Number 5, Hagen Smith, the lefty from Arkansas. I know a lot of people don't like Hagen Smith as much, but at the end of the day, we don't really know until they get to the minors if they can keep that Ks per 9 up. We know Paul Skeens has kept it going in AAA. That means he will probably be ready pretty soon here. I see very similar things, just maybe not as great control with these guys, and that's why they're not going to go number 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Burns, I think, is the best pitcher in the class, and I'd say that's pretty consensus now at this point. I think Hagen Smith is good, but Chase Burns, his stuff is just like on another level.
Reminds me a lot of Dolander, former teammate.
Dolander, I think I'm not saying this is a comp, but I think his stuff compares pretty well to like Jacob deGrom, where it's got that hard slider and a hard fastball that are just two really tough things to time up. And if you add a third pitch in there, I mean, if you have those two pitches, you're going to be a generational closer. But if you have a third pitch, that's what really makes you into that, God tier starter. And that's something that Chase Burns has the ability to do. Obviously, that's again ceiling. Like you need everything to work out, and you need to stay healthy. And I think that's one of the toughest things with pitchers too, and why we might not see Chase Burns go in the top 3 or top 4 is because he's a pitcher, and those guys get hurt all the damn time. And there's way more diamonds in the rough that we see with pitchers that come out of nowhere that just needed the right coach or the right method to get to the spot that they're at than hitters. So I like Chase Burns a lot as a prospect. I just don't think he goes within the top 3 or 4, and I again would kind of be shocked if he did. Hagen Smith, I see more as like a Don type guy, where it's like a lot of strikeout stuff, but can go south kind of quickly. Same kind of arm where it's like at the end of the day, you're probably not going to get more than 6 out of him consistently, I would say. Blake Snell's another good guy for this, where super high octane lefty that couldn't strike everybody out, but he's going to walk some guys as well too. And I don't really see him being super deep into games. I think he probably falls. I like the number 5 prospect because I think that's agreeable.
Yeah.
But where he falls in the board, or not on the board in the draft, it'll probably be in like the 7 or 8 range would be my guess.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I have two more tiers I kind of want to get to because there's no need to go through all of this. We got a lot of time. But two more guys who not quite under slots, but they're going to be right at the value of the A's pick here. Two college bats. We'll start off with Nick Kurtz, the first baseman from Wake Forest. Pretty good all around, leans towards the power first baseman. You know, we haven't had one of those in a long time. And then number 7, the switch hitting outfielder from Texas A&M, Braden Montgomery, a guy who strikes out a lot, but he's got ridiculous power. I don't know if the A's would take him, but that's the next tier of guys.
Yeah, Nick Kurtz, he reminds me of like a Nathaniel Lowe, but like a bit more switch to power, where he's like a big body, can hit in the middle of order, and kind of just does everything well, but it's not a superstar level, so to speak, with him. Braden Montgomery, he's got like another one of those dudes who's got like a ridiculous ceiling if everything goes out right, but kind of reminds me of like a rookie year Kyle Lewis, and I know hits differently, but same kind of freakish level ability where he can be good at all 5 possibilities, but will he be able to harness that consistently at the MLB levels? Question I.
All right, and then this next 7 through, or excuse me, that would be 8 through 10. These are going to be your underslotted guys. The A's love to underslot. They love to cut deals, grab an extra guy in the second. So here they are. Number 8, I got Connor Griffin. He's an athlete. That's his position, from Jackson Prep, Mississippi. I think that this is where Colson Montgomery came from too. Possible shortstop. I think at the end of the day, he's a high schooler. If you give him the time to develop, he could be an everyday center fielder because he's a ridiculous athlete. I'll just run through the last 2, I guess, and then let you talk about it. Number 9, Bryce Rayner, high school shortstop, Harvard Westlake in California, very popular school for the California. Sweet lefty swing.
Giolito Freed and who was the last guy that went there?
The other guy, yeah. There were 3 of them, right? That were teammates.
Giolito Freed. It'll come back like in 20 minutes from now. We'll figure it out.
Anyways, the sweet lefty swing, it's probably a tier down from Jackson Holiday. Obviously doesn't have that kind of plate discipline yet. And then number 10 would be J.J. Weatherholt, utility from West Virginia. That'd be if the A's are so sad that Bazana's gone, they take a guy who's just a little worse than him but does some similar stuff.
Yeah. Two high school shortstops. Everybody's shortstop in high school at that point, but I really don't know how to gauge high school talent, man. I really don't, because the competition level is so different regardless of who you're playing in high school. It's just nothing like the college level or anything close to the minors as well too. And I think it's just so tough to gauge unless you're looking at like their perfect game numbers and how they perform at combines, and then you're looking at the prospect, not the player. It's a whole different bag of worms that I really have no clue on how to interpret. So unless there's like a crazy high tier prospect like Jackson Holiday, what we thought Drew Jones would be out of high school,
they're gonna dip,
guys. So I got no comment on those 2 high schoolers, but I see the upside because they could be a big leaguer at 20 years old, and Bazana, all these other dudes like 20, 21 years old already. So there's that. And then the last guy, J.J. Weatherholtz. He was like higher up, I'd say a year ago, calendar year ago from today, and now he's kind of fallen down a little bit. Not exactly sure why. I haven't paid too much attention to him, but a decent prospect. I don't know too much about him, unfortunately.
Yeah, just utility guy in my opinion. Well, not that that's a bad thing. I just compared to some of these other guys we have here, the bat isn't the end all be all with Weatherholt.
Yeah, if we take Weatherholt for them, probably not gonna be happy
because we've taken 3 of him already.
I love Jacob Wilson, man. He's hitting 455, but at some point we got to take the 3-hitter, or we got to take the ace. And if it's not going to be there, because there's 4 dudes. There's 4 or 5 dudes that can really be, good picks, regardless of where they're taken in the first 5, whether it's Bazana, Condon, Caglione, Burns, or Kurtz, like you're good with those 5. And obviously you can see injury and that derail everything. But I think when we look back at this draft 4 or 5 years from now, we're like, oh yeah, you really could have gone wrong with one of those guys, even though, probably one stands out from the other.
Yeah, maybe one high school guy is okay.
Yeah. He's still mine. So we don't see it.
Oh yeah. All right. That's a little MLB draft talk. I'm excited, even though it's been moved back. And right, they do it in July now.
Yeah. The All-Star break.
Okay.
Moving on to our layups bowl predictions, like we do every week. It's been a solid week for us over the past 7 days with our bets. Last week, my layup was Kansas City over Toronto on Wednesday. That did happen. Skyler had Cleveland over the Angels on Friday. That did not happen. That was a Jose Soriano start, man.
You shut him down.
From Cleveland or something. I have Jose Soriano start in my layup. Martin Perez versus Jose Soriano tomorrow in the LA versus Pittsburgh game. I took the under 7.5. Both these offensives have been ridiculously bad. And both these guys have been good pitchers to start the season. So I think they keep it low scoring. We see a 4-2 ball game or something like that.
All right. I'm going to go with New York Yankees here. On Thursday night, they're going to beat Houston. That's Marcus Stroman, who's been solid, against the guy who's been even better, you could say, Ronel Blanco for Houston. But I don't care. Houston will eventually get on track. It's not going to be on Thursday, though. Going with the Yanks.
My bold prediction last week was the Minnesota Timberwolves over the Denver Nuggets in the series. Obviously not fully green yet, but feels good right now. You could cash out that bet and still be plus money probably. You wanted to do that, but I'm not. You had Washington plus 140 over Texas on Wednesday. That was what, Trevor Williams start?
Yes, sir.
And they did win that game, so Skyler gets a green there. This week, I have Boston over Atlanta on Wednesday. When we were talking about the Red Sox earlier in the episode, I said Nick Pavetta's coming back. This is that Nick Pavetta start. He was really damn good in the early part of the season. This is also Chris Sale's now return to Boston because the game's in Atlanta, but opportunity to face your former team. I think Boston fares pretty well on it, and they get a W in that one. So Boston with the bold prediction pick.
All right. I'm going to go with the Diamondbacks to get a tough win here in Camden Yards on Friday night. That's obviously going to be a really tough series, but Arizona's been through a lot of BS this year, including the B game, the suspension. I'm going to say that that kind of starts the process of being unfazed, getting back on the right track. Brandon Pfaadt takes down Cole Irvin, old friend of ours.
That's going to do it for episode 191. Unfortunately, I did see that the NFL schedule is going to release on next Wednesday, dude.
Of course.
I hate Wednesdays so much. I hate it. The world's got personal beef against us. And you already know if we change the podcast to Wednesdays, there's news on Thursdays all the time. So we won't be able to see the NFL schedule next week, which is unfortunate. We'll see it in episode 193. But episode 192 next week will probably include some award rankings because we haven't done that in about 4 weeks now at this point. So it'll be due time for that for Shohei Ohtani at the top of the MVP race, most likely. Even further in the NBA playoffs, so we'll have some more news about that. Maybe some NFL signings or something like that, just like the random Raider moves that they've made over the past week.
Pee Wee Johnson getting released.
Yeah, released and then he got signed.
Yeah, big man out of West Florida.
Anyways, we'll see you guys next week for episode 192. Skyler, you got any closing remarks?
Let's go A's. Let's keep it rolling into the draft. Keep us happy until we see those schedules.
Wilson, keep on hitting, man. 455. That won't be the show. Road to the show numbers because he also has only walked twice. So what do people do in Road to the Show? They swing first pitch all the time. That's what he's doing too.
Well, all right. We'll see you guys next week. Go A's.